What's up everyone, Alex here. I thought it'd be a fun video to do today is have a look at old hardware because we're always looking forward to the next thing, what the new handheld is, what it can do, what it should be, what we want out of it, and there's a lot of reasons to get a new handheld, whether it's for emulation, Android gaming, or another specific purpose like Linux, Batacera, and so on. But it's easy to forget that we have all this old hardware which is very good at what it originally did, and you can hack it, jailbreak it, and emulate and do all kinds of things on it that is like really interesting, and it might just be the thing you want instead of a shiny brand new handheld. If we take the Vita for example, the Vita is so easy to recommend, especially the 1000 model, because it has an OLED screen. You can play the entire Vita library on it with an SD to Vita card and have even bigger storage. So, you know, there's emulation for Android for the Vita, but it's not all working. You can't play every single game, for example, on the Odin 2, which is incredibly powerful, but the emulator isn't just there yet. And you know, the same with a Nintendo Switch, for example. Owning a Nintendo Switch, even if you jailbreak it, for example, you can play everything on the Switch and not have to worry about those things. The Switch is obviously relevant at the moment because, you know, it is a current console and you should be buying games for it. Otherwise, you know, there's no reason for them to develop them, you know, because if everybody's pirating. Anyway, never mind. So I've got like a selection of my handhelds out here. And I think it would be best to easily start off with these old ones because these haven't even got batteries in them. And I just wanted to mention that you can get an old Game Boy. I mean, look at this. This is my original Game Boy from a kid. I had to tear off the sticker on the back because it had my home address on it because I used to take it to school. And, you know, if you lose it, you want to make sure you get it back. So this is it was white grey. It's incredibly dirty now. And even the front panel's gone. It's just gone for some reason. But sometimes I think about these two and think, oh, these might be good for a custom job, you know, like, give them a new makeover, new screens, new cases, and maybe some kind of cartridge that will give you like an all-in-one so you can play all your Game Boy games on there. This is also my Game Boy Color from a kid. I also had to like peel off the address, and it's got a cute little Poliwag sticker because I obviously played Pokemon on it. I loved my Game Boy Color. I've been thinking about this recently because I was thinking about when I got it for one Christmas and I got Harvest Moon on it, and I played Harvest Moon all day, and I loved my Game Boy Color so much. And as a child, you forget these things because the Game Boy is so bulky. But the Game Boy was refined. The color, it was smaller, and you could play Game Boy Color games. So as a kid mattered. I think that proves a really good point that pocketability, there we go, does matter. Like being able to shove it in your pocket, because this thing was not easy to put in your pocket. So, you know, maybe this is a bit more niche, but the idea of getting an old one like this and doing a custom job and reliving some old memories, it has a different feeling to it than just like emulating them on anything, you know, having like the original hardware and playing it. Especially if you're old enough to have played these as a kid or whatever. So anyway, enough talk about those. Going to put those to the side. So I think really I'm going to start moving on to the Nintendo DS because I just want to get rid of this as well because the original Nintendo DS is ugly. This is also quite dirty, and I gave this one to my sister eventually and she put stickers on it. But this is just not very nice. It looks kind of ugly. The screens aren't very nice. You look at them from different angles and the light's gone. So I don't know if you can do a custom job putting new screens on these, but I don't even know if it would be worth it. You know, it's such a bulky, ugly thing. And obviously you have the more refined Nintendo DSs there. So I wouldn't really look into this, but I remember when I first got this, I was working at Subway and I was like 17 or something, and me and my mates, we all got our DSs and played multiplayer games, like sitting at Subway's tables and stuff. So those are some good old memories. Gonna get rid of this, not very relevant. Don't think you'd want to do a custom job on those. I want to end up looking at the PlayStation Vitas and the PSP because these are the ones I find myself thinking about the most. The ones I think like, do I think I can play these in years to come? And it's like, yeah, I kind of do. The Vitas, obviously, for their Vita libraries, but the PSP Go is, it has like a little special place in my heart. And when I did a video on this earlier this year, I really wanted to bring more attention to it. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. So I'm going to slide these Vitas out the way, and we're going to talk about Nintendo DSs. So these are Nintendo DSs. This is the DS Lite, and this is the XL DS. And of the two, I still kind of use both of these. I'll get into why. This is the one I actually used the most recently. And the one thing I really like about it is that it is just so small. It's so pocketable. It's so light. And that's a really good feeling, like if you're laying in bed. So maybe at the end of the night, you just want to chill, play something that's light, play some old DS games, or you wake up in the morning, do some brain training, for example. Like I've been using this for brain training. I remember I was doing it in the summer, but I haven't touched it in a while because there's just so many handhelds to play with, and I think I've actually pressed the back button because I'm not used to using Nintendo lately. So as you can see, I've got different folders here, and this is a jailbroken Nintendo DS. I haven't looked at this in a long time, but this also has Twilight installed on it. I don't know if there's any new guides on working with on jailbreaking a Nintendo DS now, but I think overall a Nintendo 3DS is more worth your time. There's just a lot more going on with a Nintendo 3DS that is like more value to you. I've accidentally opened Mario Kart. But the thing is, when you play Nintendo DS games on the 3DS, the scaling isn't quite right. Now you can hold a button to shrink the screens to their like native scaling, and then you can play them the way they were, but they're not using the real estate of the screen, which is like the whole point of actually like using these in the first place, which is why I'd recommend the Nintendo DSi XL overall. So, and the other reason I like the Nintendo DSi XL over the DS Lite, is this the DS Lite or just DSi? I think it's DSi because it doesn't have the Game Boy Advance cartridge. That's right. There's just so much to talk about with these. The downside of the smaller one is the viewing angles of the screen are not fantastic. The light dims a bit, and you kind of have to look straight on to really like check it out. But you can see that with a jailbroken DS, I can play like older systems. Now I haven't got every system on there, but I've only got the ones that kind of interested me. So I can play DSiWare, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, and SNES. So really, I think the best reason really to have Nintendo DS is your options for having a handheld these days that have two screens are not great. You have like the Microsoft Surface Duo, which is not easy to get a hold of, and it's quite expensive. And in terms of like the power you'd like to have in it, it would be nice to have a Surface Duo with more power. And that's where the Ioneo Flip DS kind of comes in, but it's kind of a bulky big machine, and that's really expensive, and it's more for PC gaming, so I wouldn't like entirely recommend that. But to have like, so I do have an SD card in here, and what's really great is if I take this SD card out, I can just transfer it to this DS because they're both jailbroken. So if I was like jamming away playing something in bed like Castlevania or whatever, or some RPG, and I was like, actually, I want to play it on like the slightly bigger, better experience with the nicer screens, I can just swap the SD cards over and just continue playing. So that's a really cool thing you can do between these two in any jailbroken DS, I think. And it's just awesome to have this like entire collection of games. Like I would never give these up now. If I thought about playing regular Nintendo DS games on the 3DS, now that I have these, I just wouldn't. My go-to for, if I said like, oh, I'd love to play, let's have a look. I'd love to play Tetris DS is a banger. If you haven't played Tetris DS, very addictive. It's one of the best versions of Tetris, and it's just a really good time sink. But what I was actually thinking of was more like, you know, like a bigger RPG or something. Let's have a look at the RPGs I have here, which are... Also, this has a nice pen. I had to buy some new pens for this, and it is quite nice to be able to just play things on this screen because you just have a bigger area to touch around, and it just feels a bit more premium compared to the other DS. But see, Chrono Trigger's a game I've been meaning to play again on the DS. I've never played the DS version fully, and I haven't played Chrono Trigger in a really long time. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a composer, but I did actually work on a couple of fan games that never got released. and I did loads of music for those. So if you like Chrono Trigger music, I do have Chrono Trigger albums on my Bandcamp and Spotify now, actually. Yeah, so I might leave links for those. But yeah, if I wanted to play Chrono Trigger on the DS, I do actually have it on the 3DS here somewhere. If I just scroll through, because I have so many games on here, it's ridiculous. But Chrono Trigger is here somewhere. Chrono Trigger's right here. Could play Chrono Trigger DS on this, but honestly, it's going to look a lot crisper on the DSi XL. So if you're thinking about playing regular DS games, I would recommend the DSi XL over any other DS. Even though, God, I keep forgetting, but if it's the Lite that has the GBA cartridge, if you are still into the fact that you want to play all your original hardware the way it is, with cartridges and stuff, then the Lite is the way to go, because then you can play Game Boy Advance games on it as well. Whereas this is the DSi does not. It has a camera which is completely useless today. It's not a very good camera. And in here, I just have Pokemon. I just have Pokemon filling the slot to make it look nice. But what I have in here as a backup or an alternative, this is the R4 card, and you can get different ones of these. And when you're buying these, it's a bit of a pain because there's like a certain like model to them, and you have to like download certain files for them, and they're not easily obtained sometimes. I wouldn't be able to leave like links for that. I think I did a video where I did leave links for this, but if you don't like the idea of jailbreaking one of these and would rather use an R4 card, let me see if I can boot this up and use the R4, because I've forgotten how to do it. All these, anything that's jailbroken has like little shortcuts and things with their buttons, and I literally can't remember how to do them. I don't know if I can just literally do it from here. If I press the home button, that's interesting. I haven't actually looked at this in a while. I don't know what this is. I swear if I press like, is it like L down and select? That's kind of ringing a bell. Oh, hello. Personal information. How do I get out of here? I could just turn it off. I'm going to see if I can boot into the home menu, because I can't actually remember how to do it. L down select. I think that's only if you're in game. Do you have to like hold a button? What is this, the cartridge button? I think it might be. Yeah, there we go. So there's my R4, and it has a little theme, and I can have a look through my SD card, and I've got like all ROMs on here. So the entire DS library I have on here, those are all like DS ROMs. And I'm just trying to think where all the games are now. Do I still have games on here? I should still have games on here. I haven't used this R4 card in a really long time. I'm trying to think if I actually did end up putting games on there. But this is another option to like play loads of games. I mean, this was around during when the Nintendo DS was actually out. So, you know, and then jailbreaking was a thing, and jailbreaking is usually something that is like more considered after like the life cycle of a console. So, you know, it makes the DS's like way more valuable because you can do so much more with them. But, you know, I just thought to myself that I haven't actually looked at any games. So if I look at Nintendo DS, so on the Nintendo DS, if I check my SD card here, this is where all my games are. And if I go have a look at Nintendo DS, I'm trying to think of a game. Let's just do like Super Mario 64. I should ideally pick like a pixel game, but I have done a video in the past where I've looked at Nintendo DS, and I have shown a comparison between like DS games on the 3DS and DS games on here, and it does look a lot crisper on here, so I still recommend playing DS games on here. So I've organized all these folders so that I can access certain games a lot easier, and there's loads of Mario games, so why not give Mario its own folder? So if I turn the volume up, I thought I could touch anywhere. I didn't know it wanted me to touch the star. And, you know, with the DSi XL, you can see that the viewing angles are actually pretty good. Whereas compared to the regular DSi, they're not so good. These are better screens. So I haven't actually played it on here. I can't remember where I played Super Mario 64. I think I originally played it on a cartridge on the regular Nintendo DS here, which is ugly as hell. I do think, though, I'm not sure about this, but there are ways you can add like cheats and hacks to your DS ROMs or whatever is like the software that is getting these to run. But on a 3DS, I think you can play so that you can get a modification so that you can use the C stick to also like use the camera or something. So there is a benefit to playing DS games on these devices instead, because the hardware just has more playing options. I'm looking at this through my capture, and it looks like there's like a weird line that's not being like recorded properly, and I don't know if that's just my camera or if it's the screen. I don't think it's my screen. Wait, I just got really confused. I thought it was running slow for some reason. Or is this just actually what happens in the game? It's weird because the sounds are perfect. Am I just sort of tripping? I think I am tripping. But yeah, there's like this weird line that's sort of, it's like a VSync kind of thing, but it's not actually on my screen, it's only through the capture. That's kind of strange. I always forget that this game starts with Yoshi, it's really weird. But yeah, so if you were going to play Nintendo DS games on a newer handheld, say like Retroid Pocket 4, Odin, or whatever, you've only got the single screen, and you only need the single screen to play a lot of DS games, because all of this is just like useless information for the most part. There's only a few games that like truly utilize it properly, but it just feels special to play things this way still. And for example, like if Retroid make a new flip, the Retroid Flip 2, whatever they want to call it, if they did make it dual screen, I would be so happy. I think that would be such a wonderful thing, and I would buy it immediately. And I hope that it also comes with like improvements, because I'm not the biggest fan of the Retroid Flip, but a lot of people like the Flip. But I can see a lot of potential with the Flip. But if they decided to do dual screen flip, that would just be magical. And it'd be a day one purchase for me. I'd have to see that like as soon as possible. But yeah, really cool playing original DS games on original hardware. I guess one thing I've not really talked about is how you would go about getting these. I mean, obviously going through eBay is one option. There are like certain unique sellers that will, for example, I guess maybe Etsy. On Etsy, you'll find people that have like basically refurbished models, ones they've bought secondhand and then they've done up in a certain way, and you can buy them from there, and they're a bit more pricey, but they might be worth it if you just don't want any fuss. So you could probably find something like a 3DS, DS or whatever just on Etsy, and somebody's like charging extra price because they've done all the work, but also they'd also be really good quality as well. Whereas if you go on eBay, it's a bit of a hit and miss. I feel like when I've searched things on eBay, I've been pretty lucky. Like, I will look at a lot of items, and I don't particularly like to bid. I like to go to buy it now, and I will look at loads of them and really like look at those screens. And I feel like these are all secondhand and ones I bought recently, and I feel like they're really great quality. Like, the DSi, it's got a bunch of my fingerprints on it, but for the most part, unless you really like scrutinize, just like really look at it, it's in really good quality. I do remember there was like one scratch on the back of this thing, but This one was in particularly good quality, and I can't remember which one it is, but one of them belonged to an old lady, and it had like weird recordings on there, like of like "Happy Birthday, Grandma." It was pretty funny. This one is in excellent condition. I was really happy with this. Another option you have is to have a look at. I didn't know it did that. Bye bye. Oh, bye bye. Another option you have is Facebook Marketplace, because you're going to have people that want to get rid of stuff quickly and in person, just get cash in hand or whatever, and that could be really useful. I actually looked at my Facebook Marketplace recently, and there were places like a 30-minute drive to an hour's drive where I could find 3DSs and Vitas, and they were in like really good quality, and they were cheaper than eBay prices. So you might want to have a look at something like that. If not Facebook Marketplace, then a means to be able to find where people are selling stuff locally, and you can find out where you can do that. So really love the original DSi's. Oh, this isn't closed. The original DS's. I fully recommend looking out for these if you really love DS games, because I think playing original DS games is best on the original hardware. And if you only pick one, I would recommend the DSi XL, because the screens are beautiful. It feels really nice to play. It's not even that heavy. You could play on that for quite a while, and it's just not a big deal. Obviously, pocketability wise, it's the size of a really big phone, I guess. If I was to get my like Samsung Galaxy, it's about the same. So yeah, you know, obviously a little thicker. So those are the DS's. Really nice to see those again. I'm probably going to find a reason to play, you know, probably Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger might be that like Christmas game where you're like, oh, I'm just going to lay in bed and play my Christmas game. So let's have a look at 3DS's. This is the new 2DS XL. Oh, it's so confusing, is it? There's a new 2DS with smaller screens, and this is this is definitely the new 3DS XL. And of the two of these, I prefer the 3DS XL just because I just think it feels a bit more premium and it's nicer to use. And I genuinely like the 3D effect. I know a lot of people don't. And obviously I can't show you what the 3D effect looks like on this screen. But if I was to do it now, it would start looking a bit blurry. That is odd. Because with the new 3DS's, what happens is it's using the camera to help try and help you figure out the 3D effect. So it's doing some of the work for you. Whereas if you had a regular 3DS, if you put the 3D effect on, if you like slightly move the camera, the device around, it wouldn't look good. You basically have to hold it really firmly in front of you to see the 3D effect well. The new 3DS's use the camera to help to like track your eyes, I think is what's going on, and that helps manage the 3D effect. So I love that. For me, the 3DS's are like a little window into like virtual reality without wearing a headset. I think that's super cool, and I kind of miss that we don't have that anymore. You know, we've got the Nintendo Switch now. It's just your regular device that's got a certain amount of power in it. You can dock it, you can go portable, but that's it. These DS's were like special. Dual screens, going into 3D, even if you didn't like it, they were trying something fun, and I like that a lot. So I miss this kind of thing. I would love if Nintendo ventured into this kind of thing again, but it doesn't work with their brand, and it would be difficult to market. You know, I think trying to market a new handheld now from Nintendo would be like trying to do the Wii U. I don't think people would understand what it is because they already have basically a handheld. Yeah, I do wonder what Nintendo's future is past the Switch. Like, you know, it's kind of like their end game, so I don't know what they're going to do after that. But anyway, you have the 2DS XL, which I also really like because it's big. This one is incredibly light, and it's thinner. I have got like this cool like rubber casing. I bought this from eBay where it actually connected and covered the bottom half as well, but I didn't like how it like stayed on the device because it was flappy, and it was, you know when you put something over the device and it doesn't like fit the way you want it to. So I got rid of the bottom and kept the top, and I like it. It makes it look a bit more just cooler, for me anyway. I wasn't really a big fan of Nintendo's like stylized looks for the 2DS, because you got like orangey ones and lime ones and stuff like that, and I'm just a big fan of black. I think the 3DS XL still looks beautiful, just very slick. You got some colored buttons and it just works for me. This actually has a case on, but for me, I think it looks awesome and it protects it. But if I take it off, like if I hold them, they don't feel heavy. But if I hold the console now, I can definitely feel that it's lighter. So, and yeah, it's important to have a handheld that feels lighter, especially the 3DS XL, which you'll be holding in front of you quite a lot, especially for the 3D effect. So, I don't know if I'd recommend these, but if we look at the back of the device, you know, it looks slick, it looks cool. It's the 3DS XL. But if I put these back on, it does look really nice. Just looks a bit more stylish and personal, and obviously protects it. So I don't know if I could recommend these kind of shells if you find them, but it's one of those things where I'll keep them on and use it for a while, and then when I feel tired, I just take them off for a little bit. So yeah, anyway, I don't really know what the methods are for jailbreaking a 3DS now, but I don't know if they're, because obviously, like, when you're looking at jailbreaking, for example, a Vita or a 3DS, you'll find these guides on YouTube, and they'll say something like, oh, this guide's not relevant anymore. Check out the new video, and you'll come across videos like that. And it's important to like keep an eye on which are relevant and which are not, because depending on your method of jailbreaking, it might be that you're doing an old method with updated software, and you know you don't want anything to go wrong. I did want to quickly show, since I have this open, I mentioned earlier that with DS games, you can like modify them with a cheat code or patch to make them a little bit more functional. So the one thing about Ocarina of Time, I think this came out before the 3DS with the second stick, the nub, whatever you want to call it, that didn't exist. But you can modify it so that Ocarina of Time now does have a second stick for the camera, which is like mind-blowing. It completely changes the whole thing, because before you'd have to, you know, do that all the time to look around. And I just think it's beautiful that you can play the original Ocarina of Time 3D on a 3DS with this little modification. No, we don't want to look down there. And obviously if I turn the 3D effect on, I'm just gonna have a little look at this myself. Oh my god, that is beautiful. I know you can't see that, but it's beautiful. It really feels like you're looking at a room and it's there. It's not really there, but it is. When the 3DS came out, it was one of those things, it's like you have to see it to believe it. And I remember there was a lot of skeptics. And when they looked at it, they're like, oh yeah, that does look cool, doesn't it? But it would make people's eyes tired. So this is why you have this slider, and you can do like a little bit of 3D or a lot of 3D. You can see it there. There we go. And I remember seeing it for the first time, and I was like, that looks incredible. And I got the kind of eyes where I could look at that stuff all day, and it's not going to faze me. I'll just keep doing it. So, but now the 3DS is old, and I think there's a lot of people that don't really know this technology anymore, because it's like, it was like a fad. It came and it gone. So I reckon if you were to show this kind of thing to people again, they'd be like, oh my god, that looks really cool. So for people looking for something a bit different, looking for a handheld, want to play like these old games, it might be really important to them to use original hardware and check that out. I think it's cool. Sometimes when I think about playing 3D games on the Odin, have I even got my Odin turned on? I keep saying, I used to have these Odin 2 clear stick from Sakura Retro Modding, because it allowed the LEDs to shine through them. Hang on a sec, every time you start this up, you got to put, well, I have to put a little password in. I eventually took them off because I just didn't like the feel of them. Every time I start up Pegasus, I have to reload the library so that everything shows up properly. If you haven't seen my video recently, I did a video on Wii U. Now, Wii U isn't there yet, and I haven't got the right SD card. I've got a different SD card with Wii U games on it because I only wanted to check them out. I didn't want to add them to my library of games yet, so I've only got Pushmo on here, which works. But yeah, Cemu is still in beta for Android, so if you were interested in that, like, I'd wait until the first official build comes out, because I think that's going to be pretty exciting. So yeah, I was saying that I sometimes think about playing 3DS games on there, and I juggle in my mind, like, I know I could play this at a higher resolution and stuff on Citra or whatever I'd use, but the fact that this is original hardware and it still looks pretty damn good. These screens look really good still. There's also another fact I forgot to get into, and that's when you're buying 3DSs. Some people will call it a lottery in that you won't know if you're buying an IPS screen or not. So I think the best way to find out if it's IPS or not is if you look at a certain angle and it's not very well lit, you'll know it's not an IPS screen. I think that's the way it goes. The one I bought said on eBay it had an IPS screen. I checked it out. I think it is the case. I think it's top IPS, but this one isn't. Or are they both? It looks pretty good at all angles. Like I said, it's been a really long time since I've done these, but yeah, when you're looking at 3DSs, you'll sometimes see that in the description. Like, is it IPS screen? Is it top? Is it bottom? Is it both? I don't really understand the manufacturing process there back in the day, but it seems to be a case that, like, it wasn't consistent. Now, how do I get Epona? It's like, do-do-do. I can't be bothered to do the buttons, I'll just touch it. Now, personally, if I was going to play a 3DS game on a modern system like the Odin 2, I don't mind pressing a button to switch between screens. But like I said, it's just really nice to be able to just see both screens, and it's different. And something I would, like, welcome again from Nintendo. But they're not going to do it. With any luck, we'll see what the Nintendo Switch 2 is very soon. And, you know, there's been a leak recently of what the device might look like. Kind of looks a bit boring if it is what that is, but we'll find out eventually. Is this Kakiri? Now, I'd love to sit here and just, like, test hundreds of games, but it'll take forever, and I need to get on to PlayStation Vita. I also need to discuss a few more things about the 3DS. So, look at this, dude. And you can just run in with the second stick. I also forgot to mention, so when you, the regular 3DS, what this is here, it is a short, like, rubber button almost, but when you touch it, you realize that it's a little bit like a joystick. It's very weird. Not a lot of people like them. What I did is, this is a PSP stick. And you can buy these online, like eBay, whatever. And what I ended up doing was, I wasn't even careful about it. I just ripped out the rubber nub, and then I just slotted this on instead. And it looks flat. It doesn't look like it moved. Not like this. It doesn't move like the stick. It's literally just something that leans. And it works really well. And you'll find that a lot of people have been replacing their second stick, the nub, whatever you want to call it, with this PSP thing, because it works better. It's just more responsive, and you have more control of the camera. And yeah, it's weird. It's weird how well it works, but I do like it. So I do actually recommend, I think I was playing Resident Evil Revelation, and I was using the original nub, and I was like really like pushing into it, like trying to make the camera go where I wanted it to go. Jesus, this camera really loves Link's crotch. But yeah, replacing with the PSP stick, it's just way better. So I absolutely recommend doing that. You don't even have to apply much force. It just gently like works. I love it. So let's jump out of there for a moment. You can see that I have a huge collection of games. Like, ooh, I wish Metal Gear Solid 3D worked better. It's like the entire game is like 20 FPS something. It's not good. So there's all kinds of 3DS games you can get. The 3DS shop has closed now, so when it comes to like getting these games, I can't tell you how to get them still, even though you can't legally obtain them in any way except buying them secondhand, which does not profit Nintendo in any way. But yeah, it's a weird one, but there is places where they are preserving all of this content. So it's up to you in your mind if you think this is if you think jailbreaking a DS to do this, if that's like a gray area for you, you know, do bear in mind that Nintendo is making no effort to sell or reproduce any of this content anymore. So emulation is one way of preserving it, but also like you can either do two things with regular hardware. You can jailbreak, put them all on SD card, or you can painstakingly collect every DS game secondhand, and some of them are very expensive, so that's up to you. But I do absolutely love having all this content on here. I kept saying to myself, I know one day I'll just pick this up and just want to just go through all the games because they're just so fun. Loads and loads of games. So yeah, massive collection of games here, regular DS games as well. You can see that I have an empty slot here, and it bugged me for ages what it was. And it is Super Mario 64 DS. For some reason in my collection, 2 games have just gone missing. And I think it's something to do with the hardware. Like, so there's, it's somewhere in the homebrew. It's like, let me show you this. It is Homebrew Launcher. Yeah, we'll close that. So this is like a jailbreak kind of thing, and this will allow you to do certain things. So yeah, this entire video, nothing to do with a guide. I'm just showing you like my old hardware that they've all been like hacked. And like I said, that there might be newer methods to hack these things. Like with the Vita, something I'll talk about is that you can, I think you can now jailbreak a Vita without even a PC. You can do it all on the console itself. So, which is different to the way I did it, which was a couple of years ago. So I think it is Nintendo DS Forwarder Generator. Now this can like produce like Nintendo DS games on the front page as icons, and apparently there's like a limit to only have like 40 DS games. So you can play DS games on here from the front page and only have like a limit of 40, or you use, I think it's something to do with Twilight menu to be able to just look at all your DS games and play whatever you have on your DS, on your SD card rather. DS SD, forwards and backwards. So let me get off here for a second. So there's other like things. FBI is such a weird name, but that's another way we'd install games on here. A theme manager. So I actually created my own theme for this, which is my Night of the Hunt theme, which is based on an album I did inspired by Bloodborne. And there's some updaters and things. Just having a quick run through of all this old stuff. I didn't really have a 3DS. Well, I think I've said before that the 3DS, when the 3DS came out, that was kind of like when I stopped being interested in handheld games. And I don't really know why. I only remember playing A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, and what I did, because I'm a weirdo, is I was playing it on my brother's 3DS, but I plugged my speakers into the headphone jack so I could hear the music, because I really liked the music, and I didn't like the quality of the speakers on the original 3DS, so I just wanted to hear the music really well. Yeah, kind of an odd way to play a handheld game. I was sitting at my desk, speakers plugged in, and yeah, it was odd, but I think the music in that game is really good. So yeah, Nintendo 3DS games, can play DS games on here, loads of Virtual Console games. So the Virtual Console games will play just fine. I wouldn't say I have a preference of playing, say, look, this is Mother 3. I wouldn't say I have a preference of it playing here, or on a Vita, or whatever. It's only DS games because of the scaling. So if I was to play, let's say, I can't really find it now, but if I was going to play one of the DS Castlevanias on this, if I instead played Castlevania on this, it would look crisper on this screen because it scales better to the screens, whereas this, it doesn't. And it looks a little smudgy. It might bother... I don't know. There are certain people where it just might not bother them. It bothers me because I think really crisp pixels look fantastic. If it doesn't bother you so much and you just want to play whatever game, then I'd say don't worry about it too much. But you probably can get a Nintendo DS cheaper than you can a 3DS. I'm not sure if these have gone up in price since like the last 2 years or something. I've kind of kept my eye out on them from time to time just because out of curiosity. But if you want a Nintendo 3DS that is in like pristine quality, you're gonna have to pay a lot for it, I think. So that's up to you. Otherwise, it'll be like a daily thing of you just like fishing and being like, okay, who's selling Nintendo DSs this week? Let's see what the screens are like. And not all of them have like really great pictures. So I feel like I was really lucky with the DSs I bought. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna have to stop looking at Nintendo DSs now. I want to have a look at PlayStation products. So here we have the Vitas and the PSP Go, because I want to talk about the PSP Go. So I want to talk about the PS Vita 2000 first, because this is a little bit slimmer, a little bit lighter than the 1000 model. It doesn't have an OLED screen, it has an LCD screen, but it does charge via USB. Which port is that? It's not C, it's the old USB port. Whereas the 1000 has a proprietary kind of connection, which is really annoying, but it is what it is. Out of the two models, so I got this one first, then I got the 1000 model. I prefer the 1000 model a lot. Everybody has their preferences. I've seen people say they prefer the slim for whatever reason. I just think this holds nicer. I think the screen's better. It just feels like a more premium fun device to me. Now, I did play a lot of PS1 games on here. When I first got this, the Vita was my first foray back into handheld gaming. Like, what did I want to do? And at the time, the handhelds we have now are crazy. The Odin Pro wasn't even out at the time. My selection of like choices were like weird Chinese knockoff and maybe some Anbernic products. And then I really looked into homebrew and I was like, I think this is where I wanted to go. So it's kind of crazy how much the handheld scene has changed in just 2 years' time. We're getting towards the end of 2024 now. I made this YouTube channel, oh God, somewhere in spring 2022, I think. And I got my Vita maybe at the end of 2021. And that was when like my curiosity was really peaking about playing handhelds again. So much has changed since then. Both of these are jailbroken. This one was done first. And then I took the SD to Vita card, which is a special card that you can buy. And it allows you to basically put an SD card in it and use that as storage. But because the cards are unique to the Vita, so you needed something special, which is the ST2 Vita. So what this currently is now is jailbroken, and you can tell because I can press select and up and look at the things I've already done to it. This is already like overclocked for any reason I need it to, but there is no memory card in here at all. The 2000 model has internal storage, whereas the Vita 1000 doesn't. You have to have a memory card of some kind to install anything on it. This has a small amount of memory. I think it's 1 GB. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, because of that, I just took this aside and said, okay, what can I do with 1 GB? And this one was weird recently, as I got it out a couple of days ago and the battery had completely drained, and I was really worried that maybe the battery had died. And what I ended up doing was slow charging it through a USB connection on my computer until I could charge it properly. But then the really odd thing was it kept telling me I had to format my SD card, and it doesn't have one, or memory card. So I had to format my internal storage and add things again. It was kind of a pain to put Vita Shell back on here, because this is an easy way of like connecting this to your computer, putting VPKs on there, installing whatever you need. So that was really bizarre, and I really don't know why that happened. I'm not going to go into that because there's a lot of different factors in using a PC to get this back to where it was. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you. And if you were jailbreaking a system for the first time, then you wouldn't have to worry about that sort of thing. But with 1 GB, I was able to just download a few emulators, and I wanted to show here, even on this device. So this emulator is Chimera SNES. So there is, yeah, let me load up Super Mario World 2, because this is a really hard one to run. And I was looking at the Vita Homebrew app, which is on that device, and I can't show you it because it shows my IP address. But there is a VitaDB website that shows the exact same thing, so I could link that and you can have a look at it. But you can see that there's a lot of updates been happening with Vita still, like ports, homebrews, emulators. So there's a newer SNES emulator that actually... Oh. I swear to God, if I don't get the baby... there's a new SNES emulator, which is Chimera SNES, and it was pretty much running Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, like really well. So when I first jailbroke the Vita, I did a video where I was showing this game running like pretty decently. And then when I went back to play this in a different video, for some reason this game was running so bad. And there are a bunch of emulation options you can look into. Like if you are running this from RetroArch, there's a few different SNES 9X cores that you can look at, and they both have like overclock options and some other things that might help make games run faster. But this new emulator that I've been trying, I found that the Super Mario World 2 was running pretty damn well. So there are a selection of SNES games that, for some reason, are a little bit harder to run on a Vita, and they're probably to do with the fact that they might use the VFX thing, Super Effects, or Mode 7 stuff. But Yoshi's Island was kind of choppy. Now it seems to be, like, I can't even hear the audio crackling or anything. So I was really surprised by that. I was like, okay, cool. Now we can actually like emulate pretty much any SNES game on a Vita without problem. So I just wanted to show that this, jailbroken with 1 GB of storage, I can play loads of retro games if I wanted to. It's not a great thing to do, but, you know, it's because I don't use this Vita anymore. But this is the 2000 model, very slim, very light. You can play all your Vita games on there. But I don't want to have a look at that too much more because I prefer the Vita 1000 model, which to me is just it's just so nice. You know, OLED screen, and what I quickly wanted to show, because I had some people ask me about this. So both of these devices have Vita thumb caps on, and I think I confused some people in the comments because I said that there are different thumb caps you can get. Some are like slim and some are like thick. Now the thick ones are on my Odin, but the slim ones are on my Vita. So when you try and buy Vita Vita thumb caps, whatever, this is all one take, I can't edit that. The Vita thumb caps, I think when you buy them now, you are getting the thicker ones. The slim ones, I don't know if they exist anymore, but they are nicer for the Vita because, you know, it's a slimmer device, and if you want to pocket it, you don't want like thick joysticks getting in the way. Come on, I've been recording for nearly 50 minutes. One slip up is fine. So this is the 1000 model. This has been hacked. I hacked this afterwards. I put an ST2 Vita card in there, and this has like everything I want. So I have like different collections here. Let me just turn the volume up. I think it is up. And I have loads of different like Vita games. You have ports as well. There's a port of Zelda on here, which is widescreen, and that runs pretty nice. Let me just check. That's interesting. I have not overclocked this. Why is that? Hang on. That has confused me. Because you should be able to... Oh, there we go. Wait, why won't it let me save profile? I just wanted to make sure that it was overclocked. It wasn't overclocked before. So you can turn all these up, and it makes, for example, it makes games like Outrun on the PSP run better if you wanted to do that. If you're playing older games, you might want to underclock it so you save battery life. You can get new batteries for the Vita, and they're like more efficient batteries, I think, but that's not something I've done, so I don't want to talk about that too much because I don't really know much about it. But yeah, this is the PS Vita. And on here, you can play retro emulated games, but I think the best thing about it, really, besides the Vita catalog, is that you can play PS1 and PSP games on here, like all natively. You know, it works perfectly on the hardware. So I've got this thing called Adrenaline. It's basically going to run like what the PSP looks like. And in here, I can show you my different categories I have. So I made a few: PS1 games, PS1 RPGs, PSP games, and PSP RPGs. Because both consoles have like loads of like one or the other, so it was easier to like categorize them. So I can play loads of different PSP RPGs on here natively, and they just run really well. They look really good. You can also do other things like customize the controls. Let's say if I was to just open up Breath of Fire 3. Ooh, that PSP logo is nostalgic with that sound. I haven't heard that in a while. So we'll load this up. We're in game. If I hold the home button menu now and I go into settings, there's a bunch of settings in here. I can press L and R to look at my save states. Some other settings here. And if I go back to the menu and go back to open official settings, so this is like official Vita settings, I can do some stuff that will play these games a little bit differently. So these are the PSP settings. Let me turn this down. Breath of Fire 3 has a great soundtrack. I don't want to turn that down, but it's getting a bit loud. So these are like the PSP settings I can change that are relevant to the Vita. And if I was to quit this game, because the PS1 settings are actually a bit different, so I want to show those. Let's have a look at, I'm not really sure what to pick. Doesn't really matter. I should play Soul. I've never played Soul Reaver. I should play that someday. I know there's a second one on the PS2, but I haven't played either. I think there was some kind of leak or rumor that there might be a remake of sorts or something coming, but not yet. Anyway, booted into a PS1 game, and if I hold the home button and go over to settings, oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, so bright. Go over to the settings, same deal, same things, but if I open the official settings here, you can see we have some different options. We can change the way the screen looks. So actually, I'm not at a good position in the game to... Let me X out of here for a moment. I'm hoping this isn't a black screen. So yeah, you can see this is the the PS1 game, sorry, running the way it should. Hang on, I just don't know. There we go. If I hold the button in and go to settings and then official settings and then to other settings and screen, you can see the screen mode is on original at the moment. If I press normal, it will just stretch up to the top. I press zoom and it will zoom right in for some reason, which is a bit weird. I don't know what game would be good with that. Full is where it's just stretched to the screen, so that's not ideal, but you might want to use the screen in that way. Custom is the way I usually do things, and if I think if I pull this around, I can use my thumb to stretch it and then fit it in a way that I think would be cool. So this can get quite finicky, but I might do something like that, where I've got some black bars on the side. Yeah, I shouldn't do this now. It's something like that. And then if you press keep proportions, you'll stretch it as a box. Whereas I like to use a bit more of the screen, because I don't mind a little bit of stretch. I think it, like, you know, it doesn't bother me too much. If I can use a bit more of the screen, that's fine. And then if I back out, you can see that it's stretched the way I wanted to. So the Vita also only has L1 and R1. And what it typically does, there are like pressure parts on the back of the Vita that would simulate L2 and R2 or whatever. You can change those if you like. So if I hold the button in and go to settings, official settings, and controller settings, you can assign the buttons a standard way. So it says that you can use the rear touchpad for L2, R2. You can also use the edges of the screen. I'm not sure if that's in the custom part, but here you can change every button on here. So for example, you could use the right stick to simulate L2 and R2 or whatever you needed it to be, which can be handy because you don't always want to touch like the back of the console or the screen for certain buttons. So yeah, assign touchscreen. You can assign buttons to the corners. So if you're just playing and want it to tap up here or down here, and you can just assign it to whatever you want. I think that's pretty cool. There are a couple of games where I found that really handy. Makes it a bit more like a mobile game, I suppose. So you can assign the rear, and you can assign it so that it is an analog, so you can use the sticks properly without assigning them digitally. So that's cool. Yeah, so that's just a really nice thing about playing the PS1 games. Like, it's native, but you have some options there to make it a bit more personalized for your Vita, and you know, utilize the screen more, change the buttons or whatever, and that's really cool. So if I double tap the button, I can exit out. So there we've looked at PS1, PSP, retro games. Let's have a quick look at RetroArch, because everybody knows what RetroArch is. You download some cores, you play some games, no problemo. There isn't a large selection of things here, and they're kind of like specifically for the Vita, so there's not really a lot to play with. But you can see here that I have a collection of GBA games, NES games, Super Nintendo games, and Mega Drive games. So because of the way I use this Vita, I might generally just play all these retro games on here, and I've assigned buttons so that if I hold L and do stuff, I can like open the menu, rewind, fast forward, save state, which makes it, like, you know, a lot more seamless than other emulators. But like I mentioned before, the Chimera SNES that I was using on here was running stuff like Super Mario World 2 better. If I open up for some reason, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was not running very well for me on here. I have to figure that out. But if I was to open up Super Mario World 2, or its Circle on here, and I can't remember what emulator it was opening with. Was it 2005? Or was it 2002 SNES 9X? Either way, I'm hoping it's just going to load up the last core I used, and I'll show you the performance here the way it is. If I hold L and press left, that's how I'm saving states. And I think the profile I was trying to use, so if I go into the menu here, and then go down to options, there are some options here, and usually when you use RetroArch, you fiddle around with some of these settings, and then maybe you go manage core options, save the directory or game or whatever, and for some reason I don't think it was working for me, so whatever I changed was not doing what I thought it was going to do. But let me put the FPS on here. You can see that it's tanking a bit, and it's not feeling very smooth compared to Chimera SNES. So in the past, had I not checked out that emulator, I would say, okay, there's some SNES games that you can't play on your Vita, but now with that new emulator, I would say, oh, actually, it's running pretty decently. So it's nice to be able to say that you can play pretty much the SNES, the entire SNES library on the Vita. Well, I think. Anyway, so that is just an example of SNES game on RetroArch. So let me close that. Whole bunch of like retro games on there. Let's X out of there, and we'll look at Nintendo 64 in a second. CPS2 PSP is like a Capcom thing. I'm not going to get into that because I think some of the games have been crashing for me recently. Actually, if I just open it up though, you'll see that it's like for specific like Capcom arcade games. So the CPS2 cabinet, I think it is. I think they have a CPS3 as well. I don't know if that actually works on the Vita, but CPS2 does. And I was playing this yesterday, and I was like checking out, I think it was Alien vs Predator and Dungeons and Dragons. And it was really cool playing those games this way on here because they were really smooth, they're really great. But when I tried to play, for example, Children of the Atom, Street Fighter Alpha 3, I could hear them, but they just weren't booting, and I don't really know why. So I don't want to fiddle around too here, and it was taking a fair while for these games to open up. So I just wanted to point out this is an option you can do, and some of them work well. So if you like that, you could play certain arcade games on like a widescreen on here. That is awesome. Right, let's X out of there. I find that emulator a bit odd for some reason. It seems somewhat connected to Adrenaline in some way, but it's like its own separate entity. So, yeah, I don't know. See, look, it's just done this. Exit PSP. Okay. So Nintendo 64, I actually played the entirety, nearly the entirety of Banjo-Kazooie on here. I just want to quickly show that I did get to a place where it's quite far in the game, and it's like, oh, actually, that does work pretty well. There haven't been any updates to this emulator. I don't think so anyway, since I first started playing it. So, regrettably, even though the Vita has like a certain amount of power, it is not an emulation beast. It just doesn't have the chops, you know. So let's have a look at Banjo-Kazooie. I'm pretty sure in a different video I showed where I was at this, but I got to Click Clock Woods, is it called? So if I press select and just go over to load state, press select again, and there's a couple of parts in this game where it actually like slows down a little bit, but not to a point where I was like, I just can't play this. For the most part, you know, it feels like a Nintendo 64 game. It is a Nintendo 64 game. And I got this far playing it, so I obviously enjoyed it enough. And I can be like a little finicky about this kind of stuff, so I don't know. I can't believe I actually got up here without crashing into anything. How did that not get him? So yeah, not perfect. Has a couple little bits of slowdown here and there, which, to be honest, for a platformer is not great, because, you know, you want to do precise inputs. But Click Clock Woods is a rather large location, so this should be a good test of what this game is for the most part. Sorry, these birds are so annoying that I am getting some satisfaction of taking them out. It is a bit weird using the C stick on the C buttons on the right stick. I think if I hold L and press left, Kazooie will come out like that. Yeah. But Banjo-Kazooie is one of those games that is a little bit harder to... Oh my god. Oh dear. Alright, let's get out of there. Let's load up, because I was looking at this last night. I do want to have a look at a Zelda game, because I feel like Zelda is just something people are going to be interested in. So Majora's Mask. By the way, there was a category up there. You can change the categories because this emulator isn't perfect. Nintendo 64 on the Vita is kind of similar to the way Vita is on other handhelds, in that there isn't a perfectly playable library, but there are like games that are very playable and some are not. Kind of similar situation here. Anyway, so I'm going to load Majora's Mask. The one thing I hate about testing Majora's Mask is that the intro is so slow. To get to Clocktown, it just takes ages, and you can't skip anything. Fortunately for us, I made a save state yesterday. So let's load up. So when I got to Clocktown, press that again. When I got to Clocktown, and also this is using like, I can't remember what setting it is in the graphics. It's like aspect ratio 16:9 unstretched, and that is using like the entire screen. So the game looks widescreen. The HUD is where it would normally be as a 4x3 game, but yeah, so this isn't perfectly smooth either. There are a few locations where I found it to be really choppy, but I thought it was really cool seeing this game the way it's looking and running fairly decently for the most part. It's weird, it's saying 20 FPS up there, but it doesn't feel like 20 FPS. What if I get rid of it and change it back? Don't know, kind of odd. So, unfortunately, can't show you the Vita database, the Vita homebrew thing, because it's going to show my IP address. But there is a website, and you can look that there's all kind of ports and stuff. I was kind of interested to show, there's a port, for example, of Blasphemous, which is a really cool game that you would think would be great for a Vita, but it was like, you know, it came out after the Vita. But if you download certain ports from the Vita homebrew page, they won't actually work. What it basically is doing is it's creating the assets on the Vita for you to say, oh, you can, this is how you'd run this game, but you actually need to get like the game data from like a PC version or something. I think Cuphead is the exact same way, but there are some really cool ports that you can play on the Vita, which I don't have on here, but basically like Blasphemous, Cuphead, Hollow Knight, all playable. I think all are in a full state. I think a couple of them say they're still in beta or whatever, but I think all of them are playable from start to finish, which is super cool. I've not personally been interested in it because I'd play those games elsewhere. There are some other cool things I saw. There was like a proper port of Super Mario World if you didn't want to play that on an emulator. There was a port of Soul Calibur for the Vita that runs that Android version on this device, but it's like widescreen. But I did read that it did have some problems with frame rate, so I was like, I don't know if I'd want to try out a beat 'em up if it is going to run slow at parts, because I feel like a beat 'em up is all about like precise inputs. So yeah, I didn't think that was worth testing. But yeah, Majora's Mask is running pretty well. It's getting dark now. What I actually should have done, there was one location I got to and it was not running well, and I don't know why, because I wouldn't have thought the location would be intensive. Oops, I didn't mean to talk to him. But you know, there's so many ways to play Zelda now. There's a Ship of Harkonian port for Android you can play this now on. The 3DS version is great. Wait, this location at night was like 5 FPS or something. It was terrible. Strange. Maybe this guy and his music made it smooth again. Thank you, friend. Also, for some reason, sometimes when I touch the stick, that bar at the top appears. I thought it was like me accidentally touching the screens if I touch the screen. So yeah, I'm not too sure what that's about. But yeah, there is as a quick look at some Nintendo 64 games. Obviously loads of Vita games, and there's just really no reason to show PlayStation Vita running on a Vita, because you know what to expect. It is just native gaming. Like I said, it is jailbroken, but like these are just games on the SD card, but they run as Vita games. You know, it's native, it's not emulation or anything. And looking down here quickly, we also have apps. Got a whole bunch of apps here that can help like change the experience. So auto plugin, you can download all kinds of plugins that will like change certain things. This video is getting really long now, so I kind of like want to pick up the pace and move on. This was new, DS Vita. So this is, let's have a really quick look at this, because this is experimental. It's there is a small list of like some playable games, but for the most part, like a lot of them are not going to run. So what I did check out was Dawn of Sorrow, because I thought to myself, like DS Castlevania games, they're not that intensive. Surely you must be able to play Castlevania DS on this experimental emulator, and it's not too bad. It's not good. So I wouldn't recommend it all for you to try Nintendo DS games on the PlayStation Vita. I think I just pressed the back button again. Uh-oh. Ooh. It's like less than 10 FPS. But if I get into game... Oh, I didn't save my game. It is cool that I can actually touch and do that though. Yeah, there's my sign your name. But it's running extremely slow. And to be honest, it's just a waste of video. So I'm not gonna show too much more of this. But even this text scroll here, it's not good. So yeah, even though there is a new DS Vita emulator, but it is early, it's experimental, and not a lot is running on it. So I don't know. It's very cool that people are still doing things with the Vita to try and make it like a new experience. I would love a Vita with a more powerful chip in it. Just the way it is, doing whatever it does, just so that we can do more things with it. That would be fantastic, but unfortunately it's not as simple as just taking a chip out and putting another one in. If it was, that would be fantastic. But yeah, the PlayStation Vita as a viable device in 2024, yeah, there's a lot going on for it. Really good retro emulation, PS1, PSP, PS Vita, all native, fantastic. And still an amazing console. OLED screen, really nice to hold. Battery's still decent. Whole time we've been doing that, it's gone down like 10% or something. Obviously, if you're playing Vita games, it might go down more. And there's other ports that are really cool. I've got like different folders here: roguelikes, arcade games. Streets of Rage Remake is a port from the PC version. There is also Sonic Mania runs on here. There's a port of that, runs really well. I think when you get to the 3D stage though, it doesn't run very well, so I don't know about that. Cave Story, another Metroid 2 remake, so you have some really cool ports on here that you can play, and they look great on here, play really well. So still big advocate of the Vita. Obviously, slim model is pretty cool. I don't know if this has better battery life, but anyway, those are the Vitas, and I just want to have a quick talk about the PSP Go, which is absolutely tiny. If I was to shut this and show, you know, it's like a little bit bigger than the actual Vita screen, only a little bit bigger. It's thinner than the Vita. It's just tiny. It's really small, and this is a PSP, so it plays all your PSP games. It does play PS1 as well, and this is also, you know, like jailbroken, but also it has a memory card adapter inside. So where's the memory card? So the memory card slot here, the M2, there is a ribbon connection inside there to a SD card modification with an SD card in it. And I have basically loads of PSP games and PS1 games on here. Hang on a second. Wait, that's really bizarre. Wait, here's ports. Emulators. Oh, I think something's wrong. I think the card is not connected properly into the system. How did that happen? Maybe I just need to turn it off and on again. I guess one thing I can very quickly check, if let's say I went to Game Boy Advance, because one of the reasons I actually love the PSP Go is just so slim. The battery life is actually pretty decent, and the screen works really well for Game Boy Advance games. Is this all on the internal storage? I think it is. So Game Boy Advance is actually a really cool way of, well, playing Game Boy Advance is a really cool thing on the PSP because of its just slim, pocketable size, and it just runs Game Boy Advance. I can't talk. I've been doing this video for so long. I need a drink. I'm just trying to say that Game Boy Advance works really well on here. And you'd think it wouldn't be comfortable, but it's actually not that bad. Once you just get into, you know, when you just get into it and you just start playing, it's actually really nice. I guess the only uncomfortable thing could be the analog stick here, which I don't think is too bad. I think they've done an okay job with that. My only like real gripe with the PSP is that this D-pad is, because it's not one piece, it can be really annoying, like moving around. So let's say you're running around in Breath of Fire and you're going up, down, left, right. After a while, moving your thumb around just gets annoying and you have to like reposition your thumb. That is frustrating. But otherwise, excellent way of playing Game Boy Advance games. Now, what I want to do is just find out what happened to my PSP games. Not that I was going to play any, but like something is definitely wrong. Because I should have folders here that have all my PSP games. So just a piece of advice, if you do have like a jailbroken PSP, if you wanted to completely turn this off, you have to like hold this power button up all the way, and that can be kind of annoying because you sometimes not sure if it's gone in standby or not. So if you just press the select button here, there is an option that says shut down device, and you can just shut down that way. So instead of faffing around, you can just select an option and boom, it's definitely turned off. It's not going to waste your battery. But if I slide it back up, it's going to turn on again. And yeah, I have a feeling that when I look inside here, that this is not connected properly. It weirdly looks kind of empty, but yeah, it's so strange because I was playing this only a couple of days ago. But it still doesn't change the fact that you can play all your PSP games on here, and with a memory card mod, you can have like hundreds of PSP games on this device. And the thing is, that wasn't even a possibility when the PSP Go came out. It just had internal storage or an M2 card, which wasn't very good. And it didn't make sense back when it came out as much as it does now. So what you can do with the PSP Go now is actually incredible. So to have all these like PSP games in a tiny little pocketable device you can shove in your pocket or anywhere, and it's light as hell, it's amazing. Anyway, this has been a long ass video, so I do thank you very much for watching. I don't know how useful that has been, but I've been wanting to talk about all these old handhelds, and it's been really nice picking up and checking them out again. So if that has incentivized you to maybe look into buying an old handheld, modifying it and doing whatever you want to do, I think it's a great option. You don't always have to get the newest best thing. It doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles. Maybe one of these is what you need. Nintendo DS's, regular DS's, I've got them all. I've got these over the last couple of years, and I honestly think they're worth having because these things are never going to come back, and they have their relevance. The dual screens are amazing, pixel perfect DS games, Vita native on the console, PS1 and PSP native on the console is fantastic. So as much as I love everything that the Odin 2 can do, and is basically my go-to handheld at the moment, all these have a special place in my heart, and I think they're worth having. So if you can find them at a decent price, definitely worth picking up. And it's just it's a nice little side product as well, you know, checking out games from the past on the original hardware and seeing if you like that kind of thing. And you can always sell it, I suppose, because they're going for a decent price still, so you can get your money back. Anyway, thank you for watching that video. Please give it a like if you like it. Subscribe, hit the bell notification, because I will eventually do reviews on the Retro Pocket Mini and the Retro Pocket 5. I'm going to have a drink. Thank you very much. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.